All right. First, let me know if you are seeing this and if you can hear me all right. Yeah, let's do a little bit of making sure that this is all working right before we get started. Okay, so this is a little bit of weirdness for me because uh, I'm streaming through Zoom into a Facebook Live. And so the issue with that is one, I can't hear myself. And there's like a 45-second delay. So I'm watching comments, but I also, there's that delay. So like I can see, thank you, Andrew, for saying that you can see and hear me. Jason, welcome, Jay, Rhonda, Bettina. Bettina, you are up super late. Um, so cool. I'm glad to have you here. We're going to give it just a minute because I literally was just letting people into the challenge like 30 seconds ago. I just had somebody else that just asked me the same thing. I thought I already let him in. Give me just 1 second. I want to make sure that this actually happens right. Yeah. I think he's in. So this is always the fun part about doing something live with technologies and a big group of people, especially like a lot of you I've just met, some of you I've known for a while. And so there's a few little hiccups, but we're going to get started. There's several of you online and I don't want to make you wait, especially since you're going to probably hear me ramble for about an hour. I will be watching the comments as much as I can. I will try to get to them as I can because I know like you want to know on the go and everything. If I do not answer your question in the chat, like I won't type it out because I'm not going to be doing that, but I will go back in and answer it later. So make sure you put your questions in there. Okay, so Julia, welcome. Joshua, welcome. Bettina, get some sleep. You can watch the replay tomorrow. I'm going to give a brief pause to actually, like, if I'm recording this so like I can use it later. So I'm going to give a pause so I know where to make a break in the recording since this is just introduction, and then we're actually going to get started. All right, so welcome to the 5 days to 5K challenge. I am super excited that all of you are here. Like, I can't even express to you what it means to me to be able to sit in front of all of you and share with you that's near and dear to my heart. Okay, now I'm going to do a few things, a few house cleaning, a little bit of introduction, and some things that you'll want to keep in mind for the whole challenge. And then we're going to get into today directly what we're going to learn. Okay, so first, the method that I'm going to be teaching is what I call the M through F method, which stands through Monday through Friday. Every day has its own letter and word assigned, and we're going to talk about how that matters to you, okay, how it can help everyone. We've got people that are fitness professionals, online, like affiliate marketers, people that have offline businesses that want to bring them online, life coaches, many different things. And the point of this for me was not to narrow it down into this little narrow group, because these aren't tactics. We are going to cover some, but these are principles that if you stack them correctly, it's not going to matter what business you're in, because that's what a principle is. A principle is through and through, no matter what you're doing. It doesn't fail just because, you know, there's a lot of tactics out there and everybody's looking always for tactics. But once you set these principles, the tactics become unimportant. They just kind of naturally fall in. The issue and why I'm bringing this to the table is because I spent a long time in all those tactics and I didn't have the foundation. And we're going to talk about the, you know, major traumas that caused and how you can avoid them. Okay. So first, a little introduction about what this is not. This is not a pitch fest, okay? I've joined other challenges where they taught nothing and their whole goal was to sell their course at the end. I have guests that are coming on. They will be allowed to tell you what they do. You know, I'll probably tell you about like, oh, hey, this is what they do. They focus on. If you want to work with them, reach out to them, whatever, but they won't be pitching anything. I can say this in 100% honesty right now. I do not have an offer to pitch you. That wasn't the point of the course. Now, I do want to help you in a very specific way to you. That's why I posted the video the other day about involving yourself in the homework. I want to offer to walk you through a game plan of your own, but I want commitment from you. If you can't do, you know, 5 to 10 minutes of homework after watching the lesson for the day, then it doesn't matter how much blood, sweat, and tears I put into a program for you. You don't, you know, obviously value what I'm giving you. So that doesn't work for either of us. And that's okay. You don't have to respond to me. That's the thing that we're going to talk about this actually tomorrow, but about resonance and how you want to work with people that you want to work with and that you just click with. And if you don't click with me, that's okay. I mean, I might take it a little personally, but I'll try not to. Anyways, let's see who else. Melanie's here. Nell is here. I think I said hi to Julia. Awesome. Okay, so very briefly about me and what I bring to the table, okay? I've felt like I was an entrepreneur my whole life. You've probably heard me say it before. When I was in kindergarten, I started going door to door, slinging pizzas for my school fundraiser. I remember at like 8, going door to door again, selling magazine subscriptions for like prizes that I would win at school. I started working at 9 years old with my dad, you know, during the summers. But when he quit doing that type of work, it was house painting. I went and started my own business at 16 and started bringing in, you know, thousands of dollars as a teenager painting houses that I was getting on my own. And then I've done, you know, door to door, you know, internet, television package sales. And I've been working online in some manner since 2009. My big break came in 2014 when I started learning how to sell physical products on Amazon. I'll introduce my mentor, Jason Fladley, in at some point, and how he helped me get there and what he's done for me since. Then I started coaching on Amazon, and it started very, very quickly. I had only been selling on Amazon for about 3 months, and I was already up to $10,000 a month in sales. And I was at a conference where like 78% of the people there, they hadn't even launched a product yet. And I was already making $10,000 a month because I was going for it. I met a kid named Michael, who's a dear friend now. He had started with the worst product in the world. I helped him turn it around, and he now has a multi-million-dollar business where he owns a warehouse and a company and all this stuff. I've taken students from starting with only $100 to being able to turn that into paying their rent every month off of, you know, the coaching that I've done from like Amazon sales and stuff like the past. That's just a little bit about me and my background. so that you know, like, I've been doing this. I've done a lot of things. I'm going to talk about the major failures that came with it, because you need to understand they were because I wasn't instituting these principles and I didn't even understand them. And I'm hoping I can help you avoid that. Okay, so now what does the M through F stand for? Monday through Friday. Okay, the acronym starts with Monday for mindset. When we're done, if you look in the units, you'll be able to tell each unit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starts with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that letter to keep it in order. And the thing is, every day naturally builds on the next. So when you get the one that, like, when you start today with mindset, and I know that's the boring one. Oh man, people hate it. They want to learn. I want to make some cash. But that's the problem. If you don't have the mindset, even if you do make the cash, you will eventually fail. And maybe you will be the 1% that manages to make it out of it. But most of us have a little bit of screwiness going on with our mindset that we don't recognize yet. And I want you to be able to get past that. So when you are successful, it doesn't fall apart. Okay. So don't skip a day. Do your homework. That's where you get the benefit of seeing how it applies to you. I'm going to walk you through first day's homework and exactly how it will apply to you. If you don't bother to do it, when we talk about tribe tomorrow, it's not going to make any difference to you because you won't see how today played into it. And then when we get into the subject on Wednesday, if you haven't followed Tuesdays, you're going to be behind. So just do it in order. I'm not going to be talking for hours. I don't understand how some people can do it like a 3-hour webinar, because I'd have to like split and go use the bathroom. But I'm going to try and be here for an hour and make it count. Actionable content that is going to bring you to the next level, no matter where you're at. I know some of you are just starting and have no idea what to do yet. I know some of you are absolutely killing it. And I hope that even in that circumstance, there are pieces that you see that you could dig down into even deeper to make the 5 hours we're going to spend together this week absolutely worth it. Jason, yeah. Door to door, man. You can cut your teeth on that. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, why are we starting with mindset? Like I said, it's the concept everybody goes, oh gosh, they hear about it, they talk about it. You got to come up with your why, and just like they think, oh, this and that, and they're just bored. I get it. But this is the foundation, not just for making money, but for your life. This is something that if you've never really truly made it successfully, like monetarily, you probably haven't experienced yet. Money only buys choices. It doesn't fix you. So if you get a lot of money, yes, it gives you choices. But if there's still a lot going on up here that you haven't dealt with, that money will most likely go as quickly as it came, but you also aren't going to know how to deal with it. That's why people that win the lotto, like if they win less than $5 million, they are statistically like insane. 75% of them broke within the first 5 years. That's absolute lunacy. But just because you get money doesn't mean you understand what to do with it or have the appropriate relationship with it. Okay. Now, this is why I feel like I won't say uniquely qualified, but I am qualified to talk about this, because I haven't just made money online. I haven't just been an entrepreneur. I have studied and read and dealt in life with a lot of things like psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, obsessive compulsive disorder, trauma, and things like this. I started reading books like this years ago when I was young. Some of them are valid, some of them are not, but I wanted to know about this. Now, these are all business books. You've probably I don't know which way, 4-Hour Work Week. You've probably heard of it, different things, but I've also done a lot of in-depth study into like my own self. And like I've worked with my family on this, because it's a big deal. Just, 8 months ago, I got in a car accident, and it wasn't very bad, but there was some trauma that came along with it, and very situationally induced depression. And if I hadn't dealt with it, I'd probably still be in that. And I only dealt with it because I recognized it. And we're going to talk about how to do that. Okay. So let's get into what happened specifically with my Amazon business. Okay. In 2014, I learned how to sell on Amazon. In my first full calendar year, I made over $318,000 in sales. If you saw the pictures of me and my best friend, who also ended up being my first employee, we went on a cruise that I paid for to Alaska with other entrepreneurs, which was a great write-off, by the way. And there's correct ways to do that. We were on top of the world. We were like launching products, and we were growing, and we were going to turn it into, we had our plan to make $1 million that next year, and all this stuff. Welcome, Monique. Welcome, Dimitri. And then it all fell apart. And I don't just mean like I lost some sales. I lost everything. Okay. I mean, I had to let my employee go. My products like absolutely crashed and burned and never sales. Counterfeiters took over from what I was doing, destroyed a lot of the work I'd put in on Amazon. And I got so in over my head that I eventually had to go bankrupt because I just couldn't keep my head above water anymore. There's a very specific reason why that happened. And right along with that was I completely lost my health. I got to the point where I was sleeping like 14 hours a day and had a migraine for 2 weeks straight. And eventually I got to the point where I felt like if I don't fix this, if I don't figure out what's wrong, I'm gonna die. And that's not meant to be dramatic. I didn't want to live like that. Now, fortunately, I have a wonderful family member who might even be live with us right now that had dealt with a lot of, internal issues and like what ended up being a autoimmune condition that destroyed my health. And I was able to get it back. And it was easy for me to look back and, try and blame that health problem and all of my business problems that went with it because they coincided. But I'm going to introduce you to a concept that you probably have never heard of. I'm going to show you something real quick. This is just on my Kindle. This is a book called The Big Leap. It's written by a gentleman named Gay Hendricks. And this introduces the idea of unknown trauma that gets introduced into your life that affects everything you do. And often it's instilled in our childhood, not even necessarily, really not on purpose at all, but it unconsciously, subconsciously affects us in everything we do. Okay. So let me just get into it really quick. I'm going to just read something. I recommend you go to Amazon and look this up. It's called, again, The Big Leap. And I'm just going to read you something. And this, you might feel like this isn't truth unless you've lived it and you start to recognize how this happens in your life. Okay. It specifically says the problem. I have a limited tolerance for feeling good. When I hit my upper limit, I manufacture thoughts that make me feel bad. The problem is bigger than just my internal feelings, though. I seem to have a limited tolerance for my life going well in general. When I hit my upper limit, I do something that stops my positive forward trajectory. When I went from working at FedEx and making like $15 an hour part-time to making $318,000 in sales in my first year, I crashed so far through my upper limit that the only way to make myself feel comfortable again was to bring myself down. I learned through the study of this and this book that it had been unintentionally ingrained in me as a child that doing anything more than just being over slightly broke made me a bad person. Now, that belief is garbage, but it was deep in there. I still am working on making sure I don't bump up against that and let it affect my actions. But the first thing I had to do was recognize it. In any type of like 12-step program for like alcoholics or anybody with any type of addiction, the first step is always recognition. They have to get past the denial of it. They have to actually acknowledge this exists. And that's why mindset is so important. Because if you don't acknowledge that these things exist in you, and if you might be feeling right now like, oh, I don't have any of that. That's the thing is I had a good childhood. I love my parents. I still have a great relationship with them. I was a happy kid and whatever. But these things were so deep internally that I didn't realize that they were navigating my life and the decisions I made, and were doing things like this so that when I had such a breakthrough, it inevitably was followed by a crash. So again, The Big Leap. I recommend you go read it. I don't know, it's probably $10 on Amazon. It was one of those books. And honestly, I really do recommend that all people wanting to be entrepreneurs read books. And it seems so cliche, but you hear it over and over again about successful people that read. Shut Netflix off. Set your phone down from, flipping through Facebook or whatever you're doing, and read something of value to you internally, like a book like this that teaches about your mindset and how to get that right, or learn more about business and so on, because that can really help you get past these things that you don't even recognize are there yet. Okay. And that's one of the subjects that I want to talk about today in mindset, is what is called unconscious bias. Okay. How that affects our actions, the decisions that we make, without even being aware that this is what we do. Okay. And the thing is, we all have them. Okay. No one is so silent in their own subconscious head that nothing affects them one way or the other, because we all have experiences. We all have gone through life in a different manner that makes us feel about one thing in a certain way that somebody else feels different about. Okay. And it's pretty easy to illustrate that it's not circumstantial, because if you've ever met somebody that's got like a health condition that is not going to be cured, perhaps they are going to be in a wheelchair for life, or they have something like multiple sclerosis that is debilitating and continually gets worse, and they have a more joyful and content attitude about life than somebody who's healthy and rich and so on, you can tell it's not circumstantial, it's mindset. And that's why this is the foundation for everything. If you want to be happy and content in life, it's learning about being that whatever situation you're in, whatever you are, doing, as opposed to having to reach a goal that will make you happy. Because that's the thing, goals are great. You should have them. You should have specific goals. They should be written down. They should drive you, all of those things. But if your success and happiness is only built on when you get there, and I know this, once you get there, you'll be happy for about 10 minutes, and then it's on to the next goal. And this was a harsh reality that was said to me a few years ago by someone I love very deeply. And it was because I had reached a goal and I was happy. And then days later, I was not. And they reminded me of this, of if you are only going to be happy when you reach this, then every time you reach it, you're only going to set it further and further and further away. And man, that came crashing down so hard. I still didn't learn the lesson right away. I had to keep working on it. I still keep working on it, enjoying the journey, being content with who I am. And some of our homework today is going to help us to understand how we start shifting that, okay? Now, I'm going to introduce something else to you. And this is the awareness of, hey, nice to see you, Sammy, about illustrating the difference in what are choices versus reactions. And okay, I'm going to introduce a book to you. And now this is not going to be for everyone, okay? And I'll just put that disclaimer on it, okay? This book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, if you have a problem with language, do not read it, okay? I cannot say that this doesn't have F-bombs galore in it, okay? But if that doesn't bother you, or you're able to look past that, then this can help you make understandings and connections of choices that you're making in your life that you don't think are choices. You think that's who I am. And the thing is, it is who you are, but that statement negates the fact that we can change. We can recognize them, and then we can change. And as entrepreneurs, we have to be willing to do that. That's the only way we're going to be successful. Now I'm going to read you just a couple of clips out of this, because I want to talk about this idea of being aware of our conscious or unconscious thoughts, making them a conscious thought, and then reacting in the way we want to, okay? This is about accepting responsibility for our actions, okay? It says, the more we choose to accept responsibility in our lives, the more power we will exercise over our lives. Accepting responsibility for our problems is thus the first step to solving them. Okay? Again, it's that acceptance. We're getting into what's called the victim mentality. And if you don't know what that is right now, that's fine. But we're going to get into it a little bit. He's going to tell a little story. It says, I once knew a man who was convinced that the reason no woman would date him was because he was too short. He was educated, interesting, and good looking. A good catch in principle, but he was absolutely certain that women found him too short to date. And because he felt that he was too short, he didn't often go out and try to meet women. The few times he did, he would home in on the smallest behaviors from any woman he talked with that could possibly indicate he wasn't attractive enough for her, and then convince himself that she didn't like him, even if she really did. As you can imagine, his dating life sucked. Now, this is the point. What he didn't realize was that he had chosen the value that was hurting him, his height. Women, he assumed, are attracted only to height. He was screwed no matter what he did. This choice of value was disempowering. Okay? he had chosen the concept that height was the determining factor in his, lovability or attractiveness to the opposite sex, something that he could not change whatsoever. So he had doomed himself to never actually meeting somebody, or even when he did and they were into him, to deny it because he was so convinced that no one would love him because of his height. Now that seems a little absurd, but we all carry around things like this. You'll start to notice it when you start to say things like, I can't, well, I'm not able to because. We say those things so frequently that we don't recognize the power that they have in our life. We just think, well, that's who I am. That's the way I think. And when you start to recognize the victim mentality, be careful, because you'll start to see it in other people, and it sucks. You should feel bad for them, but don't beat them over the head with it, because it doesn't help them. They've got to come to that conclusion on their own. Okay. But what you can do for yourself. Okay. Now, this is how easily I want to illustrate that who we automatically react as this is who I am, and we think we can't change, and that we can consciously make those decisions, is how do you react in a trauma situation? Okay. Just a couple of years ago, I got a phone call from someone who called me and said, I need you to come get me right now. And I asked, what's wrong? And they said, just come get me. Now, this wasn't convenient for me necessarily. I was in the middle of sitting down at a restaurant to eat dinner, but I cared about this person. And they said, I'm vomiting blood. I said, why don't you call 911? And they said they just couldn't. I walked out of the restaurant, got in my car, and flew there as fast as I could. I walk inside their apartment, and there's blood everywhere. I get them into my car. I get them to the hospital. I walk right in the door and say, they ask me, oh, what do you need? Stop talking. I have somebody who's vomiting blood. Get them inside now and get them into a room. I didn't care about being nice. I didn't care about their feelings, following the proper procedure to, get checked in. I didn't care about what I was wearing. I didn't care that, there was blood and vomit and crap on, my clothes. It didn't matter. And it didn't matter for this person either, because this was a life and death moment. Now, normally I would care about those things. I'd try not to be a rude person, so I would wait in line. I would check in. I wouldn't just burst into a room and demand things like that. That's not me. But in that situation, it called for it. And I could make that decision. So now just think about this for a minute. If I can change my behavior because of a situation, then that means I'm capable of changing my behavior because I'm conscious of it, whether the situation changes or not. So let me keep reading. This is a little bit further in the book. Okay. This is under a subheading called There Is No How, because right now you're probably thinking, well, how do I do this? Okay. Don't let this discourage you. This is actually very encouraging. Okay. He just simply says, in my best Yoda impersonation, do or do not, there is no how. Okay. You are, and this is in italics, already choosing. in every moment of every day what to give an F about. So change is as simple as choosing to give an F about something else. It's really that simple. It's just not easy. So in that traumatic moment, I was choosing how to act. And it was because the situation called for it. There was life and death on the line. Now, most days is not like that, but the reality is we are already choosing how to react, okay? I was walking down, I still remember this because it just stuck out that it's all about mentality. I was in high school, so over 20 years ago, and I'm walking down the hallway and somebody steps on my foot and turns around and says, apologize for putting your foot under mine. They'd stepped on my foot. And they wanted me to apologize because they were so quick to react to anything that was what they were choosing to do. Now, this was subconscious, but they developed this pattern of so often doing this, reacting to things, that was who they had become. It wasn't a choice anymore because it was their habit. So even though it says, there's no how, you have to start somewhere, okay? The only way to change this is to become aware of it. You need to start putting conscious awareness to what you are doing, okay? So all of you are either looking to start a business or looking to grow your business, whether that means you need to bring it online or you need to expand your clientele, you need to create a better offer, whatever that is, your personal situation. And that there's times where you butt up against stuff and you hesitate. I mean, I know I haven't mastered this, okay? I just have experienced it a lot and I've read about it a lot because I'm so tired of hitting up against it and making the wrong choice. So when you bump up one of those things that says, oh, don't do this, don't do that, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, I don't know enough, stop. Bring conscious thought to the forefront of your mind and recognize that that is a choice that has been handed to you by your brain. It has said, here's a choice to decide whether you're capable or not. Here's a choice to decide whether you're good enough or not. Now, you might be in the habit of constantly backing away from it and thinking, you're right, I'm not good enough. And you reinforce that choice and belief that you're not. So you know what? Going in the other direction and bucking against it is going to suck at first. It is going to feel like garbage because your brain will, when it sees you going against it, will go, wait a second. You can't tell me that that's not who I am. And it's going to feed you that thought again. And you know what? You're going to push through it. You're going to go, no, you know what? I get to decide which of my thoughts I'm giving value to. So when it hands you that thought of you're not good enough, you're not capable enough, you don't know enough, whatever it is, I want you to be aware that you get to make a choice now. Am I going to go ahead and do it because that's who you want to be? Or are you going to slink back into who you've already been? Now, there's no judgment on this. It sucks. It's hard because you've set these patterns for years. I mean, I just finally personally feel like I'm really starting to get a hold of this. And I still have days where, man, I don't do it very well. Fortunately, I have the circumstances now that, one bad day isn't gonna, throw me off for weeks at a time, but it used to. I mean, I was paying for an employee, I was paying for an office space. And because I didn't understand this concept yet, because I didn't feel like it, I would get to the office and I would do nothing all day. And then I would let my employee go home, way too early, even though he was salaried, and I wouldn't expect him to get anything done because I didn't feel like it. I had to start making those conscious choices. Okay. Just a quick note, I'm not seeing any comments, so I don't know if that's not scrolling for me or what. But yeah, I hope this is all starting to like really settle in for you. That you are starting to recognize that mindset makes a big difference, that you get a choice about what you get to do, and that you can change that. If you don't like the choices you're making now, if you're looking at your circumstances and saying, I can't this for, I can't that. Now, okay, I'm 5'10", 5'11"-ish. I'm never going to be 6'5". Okay, something I'm not going to do. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the things that we do make a choice about. Okay, so let's say you live on Social Security. Okay, a very fixed income. There's a lot of people in that situation. You might be one of them, and you think, man, I'm never going to be able to get out of this. Well, if that's your thought, if your brain hands you that thought, I'm never going to be able to get out of it, then why would you put in the effort to try and do so? And if you are trying to put in the effort, but maintaining and holding on to that thought that you're never going to be able to, you're going to have a very unlikely amount of success. But if you decide that I might be in this situation, but I am going to get myself out and I'm going to do what it takes to get there, and you then do the actions that follow, that thought will change. So you can change that thought through repetition. Okay. So what I want you to do is to start to shift from doing everything, and we go through life unconsciously. That's why you can drive from a place to another place that you do often, and you forget you've even done it there because you are in unconscious mode. And we go through a lot of life like that. We interact with our families that way. We interact with coworkers that way. And it's damaging because we miss relationships. We miss, quality time where we really get to connect with others. And we end up getting in these situations where we only do enough to survive. And that's not living. That's not the point. You're not just here to survive. That's garbage. So one thing that I do want to introduce, and this is really common, and it's the fact that most of us are in the, how do I say it, pain avoidance category instead of the pleasure seeking category. Okay. And this is the difference. Okay. When your back is up against a wall, especially financially, you'll do anything to fix it. You'll grind, you'll work, you'll take on the second job. But as soon as you get just a little bit of pressure off, you're not willing to put the work in anymore. And that is just kind of the way it is. We do a lot to avoid pain. Now, the problem with that is, as an entrepreneur, there's always struggles. There's always things you're going to have to overcome. There's always hurdles. So if you go through life always trying to avoid anything that's difficult, any pain, any struggle, any hurdle, you're never going to be successful. What you need to do is to learn how to jump those hurdles, to crush those feelings and those objections by just going through them, getting past it, moving on. Oh, okay. Thanks, Rhonda. And that's not the way you want to live life, especially as an entrepreneur, because if you do that, it's going to make it a misery. You will end up working 80 hours a week to be less successful than if you just kept a job. And that's not the way you want to live. And I want you as an entrepreneur to be successful. I heard it one time put by a mentor of mine that says like the entrepreneurs are those that make the world go round. Okay. And that's not a prideful thing. It's that, entrepreneurs invent, entrepreneurs push through when, they see an outcome that they can create, even if it's difficult, even if the odds are stacked against them. You hear the stories of, how many time different really successful people that we see their success pushed through getting rejected, only to turn it into a multi-billion-dollar business and whatever like that. And that is because they are willing to do those things. They're willing to just do the work. Okay. So let's start shifting that. Okay. We're going to do a little bit of an exercise. Okay. This is going to be part of your homework tonight. Okay. This is your mindset or shifting your focus homework. Okay. And it comes back to that same thing about your why. Okay. Now, if you've spent any time in the entrepreneurial space, you've heard people talk about your why. You need to have a strong why. But the reality is, most of us, and I know I didn't for a long time, didn't understand what that truly meant. And no offense, but if right now you're thinking, oh, my why is my family, that's not enough. And I don't mean having a why revolving around your family or wanting to be successful or wanting to make a lot of money. I'm not saying any of those are wrong. It's not deep enough. Okay. Because something like, I want to take care of my family, you can do that with a job. But is that really what you want? So let's get into this, okay? Because part of your homework is figuring out that why and learning how to shift your thoughts, okay? You can shift thoughts by doing things like reading. Just a simple book like this, understanding. Now, see, most people look at this book and they misunderstand it. They think this is about being a jerk. They think this is about, hitting other people's grocery carts in the store so they get out of your way. No, that's not what it is. It's about understanding who you are and not worrying about what other people are going to say and do, and still going ahead with your plan because you know your why. You know what your purpose is. You know your goal, your agenda, and it doesn't matter what's said. Okay, so like I have some automation that works in my business, and somebody got mad at me for it the other day. He thought it was rude that I used some automation to connect with him. And something like this teaches you that reaction, it's not about me. It's about him. It's about his choice to react in that way. And likely because he's probably not living up to his why in the way he wants to. So when I reach out to him in a way that makes him feel uncomfortable about what he's doing, it's easier to lash out at me than to look inside and say, what do I need to change? Why am I upset with this person and their success and that's usually because they're not, living in the way they want to. This is why we need to understand those subconscious thoughts and really understand who we are and what we want and what our why is. And now be very mindful that this is what will determine how you live your life. And get clear on that. Okay. It is important to understand what actually is important to you. Okay. So take a look at what I'm sitting in. Okay. This is, a bedroom in a condo that I've lived in for 10 years. I lived in this same condo before I had any success, before I worked just part time for FedEx, before I sold $318,000 worth of product on Amazon in my first year, before I was teaching people just like now, because this is good for me. Don't let someone else's why or expectation for their life impose on yours, because as soon as you get out of congruence with that is when you start making decisions that don't line up with it. Okay. It doesn't matter how much money I ever make, I will never own a Lamborghini. Okay. That's what everybody talks about. Oh, the Lambo life. If they really, I could care less. I love cars. I have owned more cars than the number of years I've been driving. Okay. I love them. But I don't care about a Lamborghini. I don't even care about those expensive ones. Okay. And I also don't see any point in putting $100,000, $200,000 or more into a vehicle when I could use that same money for a much better purpose. Now, if that is your goal, I am not judging. I'm just saying be true to what you want out of your life, okay? So, for instance, when I got into Amazon, I worked my tail off. I was working 14 hours a day because we were right in the middle of the Christmas rush with FedEx. And then going home, I'd work from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and I would work from 10 p.m. to midnight at home to get up again and do it again the next day because I was going to make it work. I had belief in that. I knew I was going to be successful. I had so much faith that I put all my time and money and energy and everything into it. And I didn't look back thinking, well, what about this? I knew I was going to go for it and I was going to be successful. And that's why I was. Now, I didn't understand that that's why I was successful. So when I didn't have the rest of the mindset to go with it. And that's why it fell apart. I had a temporary belief. I had to learn that I'm always going to be successful because whatever I put my mind and time and energy into, when it's in line with my core beliefs, I don't have an option but be successful. It might not be the path I expect, but I'm going to get there. There's a reason I'm able to sit now on camera and speak to, a group of people that I may or may not know. And it seems like relative ease, but this wasn't always easy for me, but it's the path I've decided to take. Okay. So let me teach you something that's important to me. Okay. And this gets into part of my why, and I'm going to go over it later. It is more important to me to work less than the amount of money I make, okay? Because there's a certain point where, remember how we talked about money only offers choices, okay? I don't have a desire to have a home here where I live in Washington State and a home in Malibu and a home in Costa Rica and a home in I don't care about that stuff. Do I like to travel? Yes. Am I going to, keep doing that? Yes. But I don't care about big, expensive, luxury homes and luxury vehicles and, these things that everybody teaches. Oh, you got to want this and go after this life. You don't have to 10x your life to that's not me. I would much rather work a few hours a week doing something that helps people, that I get some joy out of, that I get to interact with other entrepreneurs that are trying their best to, push through the obstacles and make the living that I do, than, be grinding, 14-hour a day phone calls, or working with a 80-hour week. It's just not important to me because my why is different, what I want. So when you're figuring out what you want, then you can make decisions that line up with that. Okay. So let me just make it very clear what I mean by that. All right. If you want to make $1 million a year, let's say, okay, but you're only want to work an hour a week, then you have to figure out how to make that hour pay you. I think I didn't do the math, but like what, 20 grand an hour? Now, if you can do that, great, go for it. But you have to make sure that what you actually want, people want that life. They say that, but they don't really, because they aren't willing to put in the work for it. And that's the thing is, man, it's, how you sell products by preaching that it's easy, that it's one click, it's a magic bullet. It doesn't exist. And if you do happen to get that flash in the pan success, you're not likely able to duplicate it, and it will fall apart as quick as it comes. Okay. You have to decide what you want and be willing to make the decisions that line up with that. Okay. So for instance, I got an offer the other day, an offer to make a lot more money than what I do right now by doing something different. It still would be entrepreneurial. It still would be owned by me, and I could do it. But I realized that the offer all of a sudden made me responsible for being on call all hours of the day, every day of the week, because that was what I was having to present myself as. That's not what I want. So it doesn't matter what the money is. If somebody offered me right now, $1 billion to cut off my leg, it doesn't matter what they offer me. I don't want to lose my leg. I'm not going to just, oh yeah, sure. That's where there's no amount of money that would make that worth it to me. Now that seems ridiculous, but we so often trade for money because we think it's so important that we make decisions that aren't actually in congruence with who we are. I'm not talking about selling out. I'm talking about little decisions where, our real goal is time freedom to spend with our family, but then we choose decisions that take us away from that time just for things like more money, or we do it to impress other people when that's not our point. Hey, Andrew, the first book is called The Big Leap, and the second book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. Yeah, exactly. It's about helping people, Bear. It's about, and that's the thing is, not just in business, but in life, I have what I feel is a more important duty than that. I think, helping people in an entrepreneurial journey to reach their goals is fantastic, but I feel there's more to it than even that. And so I do spend a lot of time helping other entrepreneurs and helping them get there and so on. But I also have other things in my life that I think are just as important or more important, that's where I want to spend my time. Okay. So we're coming up on an hour. I told you that's how long it's going to be. So we're going to talk just really briefly, and I'm going to show your homework and then go over it for me so that you understand this concept. It's about figuring out your why. Okay. And that your why, it can be personal, but it also can be bigger than you. And then you just need to decide, what do you actually want for your life? And if you looked at every decision in your life and said, what does this get me closer to my goal or not? Okay. Like if you say, I want to retire in 5 years on the money that I've made from internet marketing. When you go to sit down and watch 5 hours of Netflix, does that choice line up with your goal? Now, if your goal is to make just enough money online that you can watch 5 hours of Netflix and not feel bad about it, then go for it. I don't care what your objective is. It's not about judgment. It's about actually deciding what you want and realizing that you get to make these choices and you get to go ahead with them. Okay. And if you look at each choice like that, and I'm not saying what you eat for breakfast, but even that could, your health matters of what you're able to do. Decide what you want and make sure that the choices that you make line up with that. And when your subconscious is pushing you away from that, stop and recognize those thoughts. Okay. So homework. Okay. Day 1, mindset, shifting focus and your why. Okay. One of the best things that you can do to start to shift your focus, especially if you see a lot of negative, is to learn to be grateful. Okay. That was not an easy one for me because under the guise of, I'm realistic and whatever, I am very quick to go down the doom and gloom path. Okay. So I've had to work on this, and I constantly have to work on this of being grateful. And I'm very grateful to my brother for bringing this and spotlighting it in my life because I forget it a lot. Okay. So homework, I'm just going to read off what mine says. It says, I am grateful right now for having an online business during a pandemic, my awesomely supportive wife, and every one of you that's betting on yourself in this challenge. I am grateful right now. Now, one limiting belief that I recognize inside myself is I see other marketers that know more than me about a subject, and then I feel like I have nothing to offer because of it. I will overcome this limiting belief by shifting my focus to gratitude for what I've already done and the people that I've already helped reach success. That's how I shift away from that limiting belief. I become conscious of it and shift. Now, my why is knowing that I have a bigger purpose than just making money, but creating time freedom so I can help others grow. That is why I do what I do. Now, does it take some level of money? Yes, because we all have bills to pay in life to lead, and there's still fun things and travel and whatever that I like to enjoy, but I don't have to make $100 million to do that. And I don't necessarily improve people's lives in the way I feel is important to be by making more money. There's a certain level that I am comfortable with that I can give my most time to others. That's my why. And yes, that does not say anything about my family, my wife, but that is part of that why, because part of that time freedom is the time that I give to her because she's the most important person in my life. And I don't want her to ever feel like she's lost that place, especially to my business. So I have to constantly check that. Am I keeping that in balance? My why is more important than the fears I have, the hurdles I must overcome, and sometimes my desire to just quit. It still happens. And guess what? My why is more important than that. I could go back and get a job. I could pay our bills that way, but that doesn't give me the time freedom. I am still answering to somebody who gets to decide how I live my life, and I don't want to do that. My why is more important than that. I show my commitment to my why when I push through the obstacles, I focus on others, and stick to the goals and commitments that I have made. This is your homework. It's all laid out here for you. Don't spend hours on this. Think of what comes to you. You can always refine this, but the part that I want you to get into most is dig into your why. Dig into what you really want. Okay, let's say you start with, my why is my kids. Wonderful. It's absolutely perfectly okay to have your why as your kids. But why? Because you can provide a life for your kids by working a job. You can provide a life for your kids not being an entrepreneur. I mean, a lot of people do it and they have no desire to be an entrepreneur. So what is it about your kid's life or about what happened in your life that will drive you? Because the thing is, if your why is not strong enough, and let me illustrate this very clearly. If your why is as simple as my why is my kids, your why allows you to stay at a dead-end job as long as it pays your bills, watch Netflix every night, and do nothing. And be miserable on top of it because you're not actually getting what you want and what you want for your kids. But when you recognize my why is my kids because I want to set them up and I want to be the example for them. I want to show perseverance and hard work and that they don't have to be, a dead-end employee. And that's not offensive to anybody, okay? Everybody gets to choose what they want to do. But if you want to show them something, then you have to live it. So what is that? Do you want your kids to go, to a certain college? That's not my why. I'm not personally a fan of college, but that's nothing against those that think it's important. I just don't. Okay. So my why would never go down that road. But if it does for you, that's fine. But you have to make it strong enough so that when you hit these hurdles, when you bump up against them, and you're going to, because it always happens, what are you going to do to get past it? If my goal, if my why, if my agenda was just simply to make sure that there's just enough food on the table to not starve that day, I would lead a very different life. But that's not my why. So figure out what it is for you. If your why is some big lavish lifestyle, why is it that? Why does it matter to you? Get to the core of what it is. When you write out your why, if you said my why is my kids or my why is a lot of money, ask yourself why. Break that down. My why is my kids. Well, why is it? Well, because I love them. Well, yeah, sure, but why? Why is, anything being an entrepreneur more important than just going and getting a job? Why do you want to provide for them through entrepreneurship? Why do you want to, be there more than, and work from home or whatever it is? Get into the core of it so that you can carry it with you. So when you run into these inevitable hurdles, you can keep going. Okay. We're a little over an hour. I am so grateful that you have all decided to join me for this 5-day challenge. I really hope that this stuff is starting to land, to sink in. I want you to get your homework done. Okay. Now, I would love for you not just to fill this out. Okay. If that's all you want to do, then just post that you got it done, share an answer to if that's the least you can do. Okay. I know that some of it feels probably a little too personal to share in a whole group. But if you're willing, go live, share your answers. If you want to put them in front of your face and read them so you don't have to be on camera, that's fine. I don't care. But I want you to involve yourself in the challenge. The more you do, the more you get out of it. I'm not doing all of this just for everybody to go, oh, that was nice and move along. Like, I want you to be successful. I want you to move forward. So do your homework. Go live, share it if you feel comfortable with that. I was going to require it, but really, I want you to just look inside yourself. Other people have started doing their lives, and I'm not going to require the pre-homework introduction as the opportunity to work with me. Okay. Now keep that in mind. I'm putting something very real on the table. All of you are in a different situation. We've already talked about that, about what you, the different things you bring to the table. I have a ton of experience looking at people's situations, company situations, individual situations, and being able to cut through all of the garbage and tell them exactly what their next steps have to be, what they should be focusing on, what they're lacking, who they need to hire, whatever. I have a lot of experience in that. In fact, the guy that organized the cruise calls me the connector, okay? Because that's what I do, is I connect solutions to problems. If you want that specific help from me, I need to see something from you. I need to see 5, 10, 15 minutes of you being willing to put yourself out there and do the homework and show us that you're committed to being a part of this. It's not much. I mean, it's really not much, but I want to see you do something, because the reality is, if you're not even willing to do that, it doesn't matter the business plan I write for you, because you're not going to do it anyway. Sorry, harsh reality. Now, see, this is where me being me and sometimes being a little harsh is part of who I am, because I care about your success more than whether you like me or not. Now, we're going to talk about that specifically, about who we are and how that is always our advantage. Okay, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Yes, Terrence, I will post the homework in Unit 1 every day. Once we're done and I have the video rendered and all that, I will post the homework in the day's unit. So today's will be called Mindset. I think it's maybe Unit 1 or Unit 2. I don't remember how I numbered them, but you will see the homework page in there, and you will see eventually that's where the recording of this will go, so that you can know where to go back and look at it based on each day. Anyways, thank you all so much for being here. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and ask right now. I will stay in here for just a second. I know there's like a 45-second delay or something like that between me talking and that. And so, yeah, definitely a little bit of tough love there, Bear. Appreciate it though. I mean, that's the thing, is I don't think it helps anybody to not be honest with them. I'm not saying be a jerk, okay? I don't think I'm a jerk. I think I can be very straightforward, and sometimes people aren't ready for that. And that's fine. That's their choice. Everyone has their choice, their free will, what they want to do, and that's okay. Yes, I'm going to post the form in the units, Julia. Unit 1 mindset or Unit 2 mindset. Like I said, I don't remember. I might even be able to attach it in a comment, but I'm not positive about that. So yes, anyways, thank you, Andrew. I'm glad you're excited to be here, Rhonda. Everybody, I can't see everybody that's in here because it just says a total number and a few faces. I'm so glad you joined me today. I look so forward to the rest of the week and to just see your success. I mean it. When a month, 3 months, a year from now, I want you to check back in and tell me that this was the week that changed everything for you. I really hope it does. Anyways, I'm going to say peace. I'm going to go hang out with my wife for a bit. She has earned my time for being so patient with how much work I've put into this challenge. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.